All it do, Dream Team. It's your boy Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with our guy Daniel, Ricciardo Exclusive. I'm not scared of anything. I'm ready. Daniel is back in an F1 driver's seat. He's made his way back. He took Nick DeVries' seat, right? What is it, Alpha Tauri? What's that team called? It's because Red Bull's got two teams in F1. He's on the other one. But I think it's absolutely awesome, bro. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? You can never have too much personality. And F1 needs someone like Daniel Ricciardo to bring that personality, to bring that funny, to bring that comedy, to bring that all those fans that Daniel has, that absolutely love Daniel, to bring that back. So Nick DeVries is out, Daniel's in. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, give the video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. Talk to me, Daniel. How does it feel?
Daniel Ricciardo, great to see you. That means one thing. You're back in Formula One as a race driver. How does it feel to hear that?
It's great. It's good to chat to you again.
Right.
On camera, we still chat.
We do.
I'm a good bloke. I still say hi to you. But yeah, mate, it's good. It's really good. You know, I enjoyed, you know, this, call it 6 months off, and I think it was really good for me. But yeah, the more kind of races I started to attend, the more sim I started to do, certainly getting the bug back, so to speak. And then jumping in the car a few days ago, I was like, oh yeah, it all felt very normal.
It must have all come flooding.
Nah, I feel that. I love the fact that he did get those 6 months off, bro. You know what I'm saying? You got to step away. You got to recharge, especially when I feel like you're giving your all to a sport. And I don't know, it just kind of feel like from what I've seen Daniel's career, he's won races. You know what I'm saying? And he believes, as well as other people, that he's a driver who can compete for a driver championship. He's just, I feel like, I don't know, he's never put it all together in one season that I've seen so far. Maybe he has and I just missed it, but it's never just been consistent Daniel at the front. So he took this 6 months away. Now he's back. I'm sure he's refreshed. And the more, like he said, the more he was around the sport, that bug, the more he wanted to definitely get back out there. Now he's got his opportunity. I hope he runs with it. I hope he puts on a show for us.
Yeah, it did. It was one of those ones, like the very first lap, I was like, oh, this is fast. And then within a few, it's all, yeah, it's like, okay, I want to go faster now. So it was good. It's really good.
Okay, so you signed for Red Bull as a third driver. To explain to everyone, how have you gone from that to in an Alpha Tauri seat, replacing Nick DeVries for the Hungarian Grand Prix?
You have to ask them. Like I just, it's all. Look, I've been part of, obviously with a little interval, or not an interval, yeah, a little intermission the last few years. But I've been part of the Red Bull family for so long, and I know that these things can happen. So even though I was sure taking some time off this year, I was always, like, in the back of my mind, I knew maybe I will get a call. And of course I was on standby for Max or Checo as well if they're unwell or unfit. So I was always like staying ready enough. And it's an unpredictable sport. So just staying ready at all times, I guess.
So I want to know what that call from Helmut Marko was like. You've had those calls before. Many a Red Bull driver has had one.
Yes.
What happened when his name popped up on your phone?
Well, I was like, okay, let's just hear what he has to say. I think that's probably the best thing, because sometimes like you're trying to prepare yourself. Like, what if he asks me this? What if he? It's like, let's just hear him out and see what happens. And yeah, I was like, okay, and I didn't really need to think much about it, you know, in terms of, I think as well, being back in this family, I feel so much, I feel like I'm kind of just going through it all again. And these were the calls that, you know, I used to get, and this was kind of the moments that they used to kind of throw in front of us. So there was no question that I was going to say yes. It was just, yeah, I guess the reality of, okay, it's going to happen pretty soon.
You mentioned that familiarity of being back at Red Bull. I know that when you left Formula One, you maybe fell out of love a little bit when you left as a racey.
Sure.
How have you found that love again? Has it helped, I guess, being back in the Red Bull family?
That's the question I want to know. How have you felt? Know what I'm saying? But yeah, I feel like you should have never left the Red Bull family. You can't help but ask that. There's always what ifs in life. You can't help but wonder, like, what if Daniel just re-signed with Red Bull instead of going to, I think he went to Renato, or that's what they were called, and then signed with McLaren, Renault, and then signed with McLaren, and then just, I don't know. It's just kind of, when he left Red Bull, it seems like things just started to go downhill. You just wish he would have stayed, but fate has brought him all the way back around, and I'm sure he probably appreciate Red Bull more this time around, and just not take for granted being an F1 driver in a racer seat. And there's only 20 of them. There's only 20 seats.
Definitely helped, and I think as well, the falling out of a bit of love with it was also, took a hit on my confidence. And then, of course, if you're competing, in a sport where you're trying to be the best at something, best in the world at something, it's obviously you need full confidence, full belief, all of it. And when that starts to, diminish a little bit, I guess the enjoyment then starts to drop as well. So there was just a lot of factors, and then getting back to Red Bull and kind of the reception I had walking back into that team was really kind of just, in a positive way, a little bit overwhelming. And then getting back on the sim, I was still like a bit unsure how I was going to go, if the car would feel like it used to, and if I was going to be, for lack of better words, like the old me. So once I'd done a few sim sessions and started feeling like myself again, it then just kind of brought me back to normal Daniel, where I was falling back in love and ready to go again.
You mentioned the old me, the normal Daniel. I watched that interview that we did when in McLaren in Belgium last year, just after the news that came out.
I was smiling. I was like, oh, what interview? I was like, oh, that one, okay.
Yeah, it was really sad, I think. You could tell that you were sad, you were hurt by what had happened. So how mentally challenging has these last few months been?
I guess when you're trying to go for the top in something, not everyone makes it. And so there's a lot of, this sounds really, but there's a lot of sad stories, so to speak. Not everyone has the hero story. So I think it was just important for me to, remain perspective and also learn from it all. And I think it's like if I truly still wanted it and had that desire, then I can learn from some of, let's say, my mistakes or things, some weaknesses, or I don't know. So I was trying to, as much as I didn't want to be in that position, I was still trying to find the good in it, so that it could kind of move me forward and be a more complete version of myself. And that's what I'm certainly starting to feel this year, and being back in Red Bull and all that, it feels like, okay, all this stuff happens ultimately for a reason, I guess, if you use it the right way.
What do you think you did learn during that period of time?
I would say the luxury of time was something that I really admired, having that, because I've been in this sport for over a decade, and then before that, I was climbing my way up. So I'd kind of been full on for, I don't know, I think it's the 17th year I've been in Europe now, away from home.
Jesus.
So it's a long time that you.
17? That is a long time, bro. That's probably more than half of his life, right? I'm not sure how old Daniel is. I want to guess and say around 32, 33-ish. Maybe in that ballpark. I don't know. The 17, that's crazy. That is a long time to be away from home. And like you said, when you're trying to race, you're trying to be the best in the world at something, and I don't know, you just keep coming up short, and just things aren't going the way you plan them to. Your confidence starts to take a hit. You know what I'm saying? Your love for the sport starts to take a hit. So I love the fact that he was able to get away, take a step back, You know what I'm saying? Take that time, come back, do some sim, get back into it, kind of ease himself back into it to where that love grew again. To you know what I'm saying, when he first started probably, or when he first got a seat in F1, the first started winning races, that love got back to that point, that confidence built back up to where it's like, hey, I can't compete at this level. And like you said, there's a lot of sad stories. There can only be one winner at the end of the day. There's a lot of sad stories. There's a lot of people who are such talented drivers, and but you're not the best, or you don't have the best car, but there can only be one winner each year. Simple and plain.
You're just in it, and yeah, you don't have the luxury of time to look back, take a moment, assess everything. Because even Christmas, like we get time off over Christmas, but you're kind of everything you do, there's still a thought of the upcoming season. So I think just having like really off time and switching off kind of mentally as well, and it allowed me to, I guess slowly like fall back in love with it, and just I really wanted to bring that inner like motivation back. You know, like I wanted it to come from me, because I was still trying to find answers. Like, okay, is this truly still what I want to do, or has that kind of fire slowly burned away? But yeah, gave myself the time, figured it all out, and then I just started. You know, it's like you wake up one day, it's like that feeling where you're like, all right, it's go time. And that was kind of the mentality after a couple months off. I was like, all right, it's time to build this thing back up.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that moment, that light bulb moment, because I know there would have been a lot of thought that goes into it, but there must have been that cross-up point. I don't know where you were in LA, you were in Monaco, you just woke up and you thought, I know I've got to find a spot back, but I guess a lot of it was down to whether you've got what you want to crack on.
It was probably around the time I went to Super Bowl, and I think being in a competitive environment again, obviously I wasn't competing, plot twist, but yeah, just kind of feeling that and sport and being there and, you know, like that moment. And I think that was where I started to get some of those feelings back, and I was, I could feel like a lot of it, and I was like, this feeling hasn't gone yet. Like that competition that, I would love to just be under the lights and just compete right now. So
yeah,
that was certainly a moment where it all started to, turn around, I guess.
And did it make it easier for you to then take the next steps to try and achieve your goal? Because I guess you're a third driver at Red Bull. I don't want to call it a step down, but it's obviously just not what you're used to. You'd stepped up to the highest point. You were number one at Red Bull at one point as well. Yeah. So did that help kind of cope with that? And then you obviously were just throwing yourself into the sim sessions. You were just doing everything you could to just get yourself ready to go. And did that help kind of manage that situation of being around and not being a race driver?
It helped. It helped just, I think, keep like sparking the fire or whatever it is. You know, the first race I attended was Melbourne. And it was cool because, home race, and I was in a pretty awesome environment. And, I was sitting on pit wall and I, seeing all the drivers like get out the pits. I was like, I miss that feeling. But deep down, I was still kind of letting it build up. I wasn't like, I guess, foaming at the mouth back in Melbourne, but it was building. Monaco was where I was watching qualifying and I was like, it was a great qualifying. Like, it was a very exciting one. So as a fan, I was like, that was cool. But that was like, Monaco's so special. And that's where I was really starting to get like, being in a car around here would be really fun.
Well, I'm glad.
Man, that's so dope. So that third driver position was absolutely perfect. Absolutely what he needed. It sounds like. That's so cool, bro. I'm happy Daniel's back. I think Daniel's an awesome driver, but I think Daniel's just an awesome person. I feel like his personality is like definitely a personality that F1 needs. He's just a funny guy, loving guy. You can't help but love Daniel Ricciardo. I think it's difficult to not like the guy. And I think, like I said, I think his personality is just something that F1 needs.
You're back on the grid, but you're jumping in mid-season. last time you did that was a decade ago when you obviously made your debut with HRT Hispania.
Yeah.
It's very different now. You've got tons more experience, but how are you feeling about that aspect?
I'm excited about it. You know, I think it's a challenge for sure to jump in and try to hit the ground running, but
Facts.
I'm also, I guess I feel like I've also been through a lot the last year or even the last few years where I'm like, I'm not really scared of anything that's going to be thrown my way. So
Prepare
like for that,
this.
I actually really do like the challenge, and I say challenge because yes, it will be a challenge, but yeah, I don't know if I'd have it any other way.
I love it. And obviously, AlphaTauri, you knew them as Toro Rosso when you drove for them as well. Are there any familiar faces still there? I know your trainer obviously is there working with you, well, your old trainer rather, Michael Italiano.
Yeah, I've got, so I did a seat fit, or like a bit of a seat check earlier in the season, and yeah, there's a few familiar faces like mechanics and stuff, but I'm going to spend a bit more time there before Budapest, and yeah, just get to know the team, because I'm sure there are some very many new faces. It was a decade ago, I think, since I raced there. It's 2013 was my last season. So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's even that's, you know, going back to like the start of the year, get back into the Red Bull family, felt like full circle. Now go back to AlphaTauri, which as you said is once Toro Rosso. It's like, it's all very full circle right now. But I understand, like, this is my journey back. Like, this is the process and the path, and ready to embrace it.
They're in a
I love the fact that he loves to that I feel like he's embraced every bit of his journey, every step on this journey to getting back. He embraced the time that he needed away from the sport. He embraced being the third driver, right? Getting to see all the drivers, and that love started to grow. He embraced throwing himself back into the sim racing, getting himself prepared, keeping himself ready for when opportunity came. And now he's embracing going back to AlphaTauri, getting to drive, just getting in an F1 racing seat. I feel like he's embraced every step of this journey, and you just love to see it from an outside perspective.
in a bit of a different spot to when you were with them last time. They're struggling a little bit towards the bottom end of the Constructors' Championship. What are your kind of expectations there?
I think it's really just for me to, I'm not setting anything, like the car will be what it is, you know, I'm going to drive it and then work from there. You know, I don't want to get too much, I always ask if I'm saying the right English, preconceived ideas, is that right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
So like, yeah, I appreciate the car's going to have its limitations. It's, you know, I'm sure they're probably just lacking some overall downforce and things like this, but I think if it's a car that feels balanced, it might not have as much grip as a Red Bull I drove a few days ago, but if it feels relatively balanced, then that's something I can work with. But I'm looking forward to also developing it and using my experience. But ultimately, I think for Budapest, just go out and have fun. Just try and
I think
use
that's
more
what
right
it's
foot
about.
than left and have a good time.
And it's a circuit you've won at before, so you've got good form there. You've got a ton of podiums there as well. So that must be nice to go back and hit to a circuit you know you can get into the rhythm quite quickly.
It's, yeah, the rhythm is a good word because that's, I always associate that circuit with rhythm, you know, especially the second sector. You put so many corners together, and I think that's where, if the car is relatively balanced, you know, that's where you can really have some fun. And that's, yeah, Budapest is cool. And I don't know, I think there's a lot that's kind of, I know the next week's going to be busy, but it won't be any more crazy than my debut, which was halfway through a season with a team I didn't know or never met before. So yeah, I'm all good.
Exciting times. What have Red Bull said expectation-wise? You're obviously on loan from them to AlphaTauri. What have they said you've got to achieve?
Just be a legend, really.
Done.
You know, like they expect results, performances. You know, it's hard to define. I think until I get in the car, it's hard to define what that is. Is it a P8? Is it a P14? I don't think there's pressure for, you know, until the summer break. Obviously, there's 2 races and then the summer break. I don't think you have to do this before August. But yeah, I also don't expect to get off to a slow start. I want to hit the ground running and try and
Yeah.
also use what I've learned in this time off to put it to use.
And just finally, I know recently.
Yeah, we all know that Red Bull definitely, they expect you to perform. And if you don't perform for a decent amount of time, then it's next guy up. And they're not afraid, they don't hesitate about having that next guy up. It's like, you get out there and you perform, or you're done. Simple and plain.
You said, you know, the dream, of course, is to get back to the Red Bull team. This is like a first step. If you deliver, you know the ball's in your court, right? You've just got to keep delivering and hope that an opportunity opens up.
Yeah, that's why it feels a bit like back when I was, you know, working my way up through it, and, you know, through in the Red Bull family, and it was like, that was it. It's like, if you get results, and we'll keep pushing you. So that's really like the mindset. And I would, I know, like, as you mentioned, the team, I know it's been tough to get a points finish this year, top 10. So, you know, to push this car and try to get it inside the top 10, I think that would be, you know, that would get everyone pretty fulfilled and excited.
Great stuff, Daniel. Well, thanks very much. Best of luck. And as I said, great to see you back.
Likewise, Lawrence.
Thanks.
I hope Daniel does so good, man. I'm definitely in his corner rooting for him. I hope he gets that hero story, because I just think he's genuinely awesome. But I think one big thing that he said was just get out there and he's got to perform, and he understands that, but just get out there and have fun. And I think when it gets, I've never been a professional athlete at anything, so obviously I'm not speaking from a first-hand experience. But I feel like seeing a lot of the times, once you get to such a level, once you get to the top level of whatever you're doing, like, there's so much pressure to perform. There's so much pressure to get results. There's so much pressure to be great. And a lot of that pressure you put on yourself, a lot of that pressure comes from a team, or, you know what I'm saying? That I feel like a lot of the time you forget to have fun. You forget to embrace every step of the journey. You forget to have fun at every step of the journey. And that frustration can kick in, and that disappointment can kick in. But I feel like you just, no matter how far you get, you just got to remember why you started playing, like your love for the game. But you got to have fun. If you're not having fun, man, it's just not worth it, I feel like. But like I said, I can't speak from a first-hand perspective, so maybe what I said is complete nonsense, but I don't know. That's just my opinion on it. That's all we got. You guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. It's your boy Neal. Out.